Hello and welcome back. So I have got myself a Babyhawk HD2 HD2. It's not brand new, but it is connected to the TBS system. So it's got ALRS TBS system, and it's not got the SBUS. So I've got to connect the SBUS and get this thing working with my DJI remote. So this video is going to be me configuring this and trying to get it to work with my DJI remote. So buckle up, get your coffee, because this is going to be fun. And see you in a minute.
Okay, so now in front of my computer, I've got the Babyhawk, I've got the DJI goggles and the remote, and I've got the cable, but more on that in a bit. And more importantly, I've got the coffee, right? So what you want to do is install DJI Assist, and then just go into Google and type in DJI Assistant. Oh, it's come up there, Consumer Drone Series. And then go onto the website, and then if you've got Mac, download the Mac. If you've got Windows, download the Windows. I've already got it downloaded on this one, so I'm not going to install it. But I'll leave the link in the description, and then the next thing we want is Betaflight. So type Betaflight. I've not installed that, and you want the configurator. So if you go on to betaflight.com, and then you want the first one at the top left. So downloads Betaflight configurator, and then you want the latest release download. So you click on there. And then that takes you down to download. You can scroll down to the bottom of the page, and then you've got the download bit. I've got Windows 64, so I'm going to click on Windows 64. Hopefully that'll not take too long. As soon as that's done, we're going to hit install. Yeah. Right, here we go. So it's the first time I've loaded this up, so Lord only knows what this is going to bring me up with. Got connect on the right hand side, all the usual stuff, welcome, options, and all the rest. So let's plug it in. I suppose that's the main thing. We don't need to turn it on for this, I don't think, anyway. Okay, so before buying the goggles, I totally forgot about this. We need to update and activate the DJI 3 unit. So again, no power needed, just plug it in using a USB-C, and that should load up. And fingers crossed. So I've got the DJI Assist open, just waiting for it to load up. Folders opened, and it's come up. So I've got DJI Aero 3 unit. Let's press on that, and then it will show you what your firmware is at the moment. So I need to update the latest, so let's go ahead and do that. As you'll see in this DJI Assist, I've had it on before because I needed to update one of my other drones. So in this DJI Assist, you'll see bottom left hand corner there, that's my email address. That is also the account that I use for all my drones. Okay, so we're finished. So it's now updated, and I know it's turned back on. That's shush. That was the remote doing its thing. Right, so it's updated. It said it's completed, and the reason why I know it's completed is the memory's come up, and the internal storage has come up on the computer. It recognises a USB stick. I think it's 32 gig. I'll double check and put it in on the screen. So we're good. We'll just check everything else on there. So we've got the logs. And then you've got assistant log there as well. So that's it. That's it for this. And then let's activate it in the goggle. Let's bind it together, shall we? And see what happens there. Okay, so now I'm going to bind the Aero 3 to my goggles, and I've got the goggles 3 and the remote 3. Now I've got the goggles version 2 and the remote 2, which I'm going to use this on as well. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use the goggles 3 and remote 3. It's confusing, all these numbers. But so yeah, let's jump into the goggles, and I've got something quickly to show you. I'm going to take my glasses off because I'm not going to be able to see otherwise. So in here quickly, if you press the right, your toggle switch to the right, it brings up this menu, press status, and then at the top there, you've got switch to, we want here 03, so I think it's the bottom one, yeah it is, we're switching over. Just wait for a second. Now that's switched over, we can now bind the 03 in the Babyhawk to the goggles on the remote, but it's not going to communicate with it because we haven't done the SBUS yet. But I just want to make sure it works before we move over to the next stage. I don't want to do all this and then like get outside and it's like it's not working. So I'm going to do this is why I'm doing it in stages. So fingers crossed this will work okay. We've got to power up the 03 air unit, so we've got to use a battery. This is the 850mm GNB that I'm using for this. Come with it, he gave me them with it. And whenever you're doing anything with these, drones, make sure the propellers are off, especially when you're messing around like this, because the last thing you want is accidents to happen. So, right, so let's plug it in, but it's going to overheat, so kind of need to do this quickly. So we're in. So we need some tweezers, and then I don't know if you can see it on the side there. There's a little button. If you press it, it's now flashing. Let's see. You see that? It's now flashing. So that's saying it wants to bind. And then on the goggles, put them on. And then we want to keep a finger on the power button, and then the lights will start flashing as they are, and then it should find the 03 air unit, and it has. It's found it. So we're going to now bind the remote, not with the Babyhawk. You've got to bind it to the goggles. So that's now working, and that's bind to that as well. It's still showing the other remote, the TSB, but I've got no use of it as yet. And the reason for that being is because it's not set up, and I've not put in the SBUS cable. So now we know that works, we know it's connected in, and we can bind it, and that's all fine. I'm going to turn this off quickly so it don't overheat. Always keep your batteries in a safe proof bag because you just never know. As you can see on this, in the receiver, I'm literally, like, first time I've looked at this, this is really cool. As you can see here, where it says serial receiver provider, it's got CRSF, which is currently the receiver that's inside of there. I don't know if you can see, but it's just there, sat inside there. So we're not going to be using that, we're going to be using the SBUS. So at the moment you can see the controls where it says pitch roll your throttle. That's currently set in there.
Okay, so these 5 screws we need to take out. So my trusted screwdriver that I love so much. If you've been following me a while, you'll know I love this. We're going to need the tweezers for this. Let's get the screws off. Try it before you actually use it because you could get the wrong one out. Yeah, that's the right one. This is where it's going to get interesting. It's smaller than I thought it was on the rear, but I think it'll be okay. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see there, but let's pull that up there. So I'm planning to solder onto the gold ground there, and then I've got to get the SBUS in there, which is quite a small pad. So I'm going to probably use a smaller head. Just get the solder in there and not disturb anything else. So make sure my soldering iron is nice and cool. Now we need to take this apart. So we're going to cut these cables. So we want the brown and we want the gold. gold, the yellow. And that's it, that's done. And then on here, on this side, you can see them little feet there, like little white feet. You just pull them up. This probably won't do it because how small it is. That's it, that's up. I don't know if you can see that, but that should just pull out now. And there we go, it's out. I'll do the same with the other side, with the brown one. Okay, that's come out. That was fiddling. So now the plan is to put them inside there. So let's get the side of that off. Yeah, that come out quite easily. I was quite surprised with that. So now we need to insert them into there, but before we do, we're going to cut the ends off. Right, so don't have to apply too much pressure. It's quite soft anyway. And the last thing you want to do is score that bit of copper there, or wire, whichever one you call it. That's the last thing you want to do. So they're now prepared, apart from we need to tin them a little bit. They're prepared to go in now. So they're good. We just need to put them inside the little block, and if you can see there, put them inside there, inside this cable here that I can barely see. Okay, so I've just taken one out the bottom there, and I'm just getting retrievers. And as you can see there, that has got like a tooth that sits up. That for this needs to be facing downwards where the clips are. So you see where them clips are, that tooth there that's pointing outwards needs to actually go that way. So it needs to go in that way. So make sure you can see that. You need to push it in that way. Hopefully that's going to come out. Focus, please. Thank you. Right, so I've done the pad. I've done the connector. So we're going to put the connector back in the. There we go. It's back in that. So we've now got a ground cable, which needs to come around here, and then we've got a SBUS cable now. It's there. And the plan is I'm going to solder it in like so, and then I'm going to snip it. And I want to sit this cable over this way because there's some cables going that way. So that's the plan. Okay, so we're good to go again. Get your flux pen, put it on the ground, put it there, and then on the SBUS there. Be nice with it, don't put too little on. And then we're going to put some flux on the cable. Same on that side. Now these are a little long, so I'm going to cut them down a little bit. Make sure you get all your cuttings. There's a reason why I put it in there first, because it's sticking together rather than just dropping onto the ESC of the board of the Babyhawk. That's the last thing I want. Right, now we're going to put some flux, put some solder on there, and then put solder on there. Don't need a lot at all, literally just straight to it. Right, that's on. Well, that was quite, that's easier than I thought it was going to be. Sorry, I got the camera in the way, but that was easier than I thought it would be. But then I've got the other one to do, so not out of the woods yet, Craig. Let's tin it up. Solder touch. You just need the tiniest bit of solder. Okay, so now I've just connected the Babyhawk to the computer, and then we're going to go down to receiver, and then in here you'll see where the serial receiver provider is CRSF. We need to change that to SBUS, save, and then that will save that. And then when you go back down to receiver, when you press on the remote, it still will not work. So what we need to do is we need to update the firmware to tell it that it's using SBUS and not CRSF, I think it is. I can't remember the name of it now. So update firmware, top right hand corner, auto detect that, let it do its thing. It's pretty good. It has detected it, and then you see radio protocol. It's got CRSF. We need to change that now down to SBUS, and then load firmware online. So now it's got the firmware, and then all we do is flash firmware. We create a backup. Remember, always create a backup. I've already got a backup there, so I'm going to call this number 2. So before firmware. So we'll save that. So now it's got a copy of that now saved on the file. Initializing reboot and bootloader. So let it do its thing. Not got a battery plugged in, but I've got a fan because this thing overheats quite quickly. So when we finally plug it in to test it, I'm going to have the fan going. Okay, so the problem I had is the Babyhawk was not communicating with the O3 unit because it was still communicating with the TBS system. So what I've had to do is I've had to snip the power cable to the TBS system. I've put a piece of shrink wrap on it, and then I've tucked it into the side of the capacitor so it's secure and it's safe and it's not going to touch anything, short anything out. So then if at a later date I want to change that or I want to sell it and the customer buys it, wants to use that, I can always reconnect it and then unconnect the SBUS. But so yeah, fingers crossed that has made it work. So we're going to jump back into Betaflight. You can see on the screen I've got up and down, left and right, but you can see that currently I've got up and down to throttle, where throttle is kind of this one, so pitch is this one. So we need to change the channel map, which is on the right hand side there. So we need to change that. So that's throttle, and then that's pitch. And to do that, you just change them letters around. I think it's a drop down. I might be wrong, but let's have a look. I think it's that one. Right, let's give that a go. So that's pitch, that's roll. You can see now it's changed. And then when I turn left, it's doing kind of what I want it to do. Roll, so roll over. And you can see I've got the Babyhawk the wrong way around, but it's kind of not doing what I want it to do. So we're going to change that again. Okay, so I've plugged in the drone. It's plugged into the cable. Remember that it's plugged in. And then I've got a battery in there. It's about 3.6, I think, 3.5, something like that. I will put it on storage charge when I finish with this. But what I want to do is mess around with OSD first. It takes a little while to load up. But I want to show you something before we digress into setting the buttons for the remote. Otherwise I'll forget. So currently we've got total minutes at the bottom, then total voltage, and then we've got battery average cell voltage. That's per cell. This is a 4S. So I'm more interested in per cell. I'm not interested in the total voltage because I'll just forget. Per cell was quite easy for me to remember. Angle mode. So when I flick it into angle mode, I know it's an angle mode, whichever, and it goes into air mode when it goes to acro or manual mode, as some like to call it. Got total signal there, and you can put these anywhere. You see the little squares? You can put them anywhere, but I like them on the edge of the screen so it don't take away. Now, I'm used to lines on the screen, and I've not worked that out yet, but fingers crossed, by the time I go to take off, I should have worked that out. But it's no big deal if not. And then, as soon as we hit low voltage, I want that to be flashing at the top of my screen, sorry, when I'm flying. And then we're going to save that. Remember to save every single time you do something, because then, if something goes wrong, at least you can go back to the previous part that you've saved. It's all right. So now we're going to go to receiver. And again, make sure the receiver's working. And as you look at the receiver, throttle is 1000 at the bottom, and then at the top it's at 2000. And then just make sure it's set to that. If it's not, just recalibrate it. That is slightly off, and that's just a case of recalibrating it in the goggles, which I'll do before I take off anyway. But I'm happy with that. So now we're going to go to PID tuning. Now, again, I've not done anything with this. So we're going to move along to rate profile setting. And then I want to change this to actual, so I know what it's actually doing. But I don't want to change it yet because I want to take it off and see what it's like. Because them rates, they're max rates. Sort of what I'm used to in the simulators, so I might keep them to that. So we'll come back to that, but you can mess around with them, suit them to yourself. You've got your curve angles there, you can mess around with them. I'm going to probably regret not doing this, but got to give it a go. Hey, you only live once, right? You got to live on the edge a little bit. Right, so now we'll come to the modes. So I want to set the remote up. Remember, this is live, it's thingy, make sure your cable's plugged in before you start doing anything. It won't work as in regards to, you won't be able to send in any settings to it if it's not, so make sure your controller's on and your goggles, because it won't work otherwise. So we're going to start the beeper first. So the beeper, I've got it set to start and stop on the remote and turn it off. So the way, as you can see there, it's got auxiliary 4 for beeper, and then it beeps when it does it. It's quite easy. If you're unsure, we'll move up to angle. So we'll set this to auto. Now this one, which is M, S and N, so manual, sport, normal, I want to turn that to my angle and acro. So if I press manual on there, it picks it up, sorry, manual, it picks it up as auxiliary 1, and then it goes to 2000, so it's outside. So it knows then when it's outside, and then to yellow blocks, if you like, to the whole block, it knows to go to angle mode rather than air mode, which is kind of sport mode, if you like, in a normal mode. And then we want the arm to be on this one, on this side here. So currently it's disarmed because the quad's plugged in, but as you can see on the right there, it's gone to 2000. So normally if this wasn't plugged in and I'd restarted the drone, it'd start. So we've got that set right. Press save. Right, and I guess the last thing to do now is to get some propellers on it and go out and fly it and see how I get on, and pray that all goes well. So let's get some propellers on, and then let's go and fly. Okay, so we've got everything done so far. All I need to do now is put some propellers on the old Babyhawk. Right, so what came with this is 2 different types of propellers. You got clockwise and anti-clockwise. So 2 of each basically. So if we lie them down, so they're clockwise, they're anti-clockwise, and then you have to turn them over and do it that way. So now they're opposite from each other. And ultimately that's what it is. And then we're going to screw it onto the top of there. Sorry, just fiddling. So that's done. Just as a comparison, you can see that the back 2 pointing down, 2 front 2 pointing down, same. So if you had them, they wouldn't match. So make sure that they're either side. And just as a comparison, hopefully you can see that. But that's what I've used as a comparison. Quite easy enough to follow. That was better than trying to line it up. So, thanks for carrying on watching if you still are watching. It's been a bit of a long one. There's been a lot covered. It's been a lot of learning for me because it's the first time I've done this. Just to clarify, if you're going to use this with the DJI stuff and you've got an Express LRS or you've got the TBS system that this came with, you are going to have to cut the power cable because they interfere with each other and it wouldn't communicate using the SBUS. So the SBUS is using the RX2, the same as what the TBS system is, or whichever one it is. There is another one that's in the center of the board, but I am not happy about soldering right in the center of that board. So I was like, get that one a miss, I'll do it this way. And like I said before, when I'd cut that, I've put some shrink wrap on it, heat shrink. So if I decide I get a different remote or want to try something different, I can always take that off and resolder it back together so I can continue to use it and take the SBUS off. Or pull the SBUS cable out, whichever. But yeah, let's go out and fly this and fingers crossed it goes well. Okay, so I took off in angle mode. I've got the shutter in auto because I've got no ND filters, so I purchased them, so fingers crossed that'll be alright. 4.6 volt, so we're good there. Feel of the drone feels quite nice, not floaty. We are sub 250 gram. I think it's about 239 gram with the battery that I've got on this, the 850 milligrams. So just want to get a feel for the drone, see what it feels like. I love this area because as we move around here, let's stay out of the way of the children. I've already spoken to the lady with the child, told her to stay out of the way, but we are sub 250, so we're all right. As you can see, the tree line, as I go up a little bit, kind of hugs, if you like. I kind of like it here because when it does get windy, it kind of protects the drone a little bit from the wind. So let's try flip. Oh, that feels good. That feels really good actually. Let's go the other way. Yes, very sharp and responsive. I like that. Let's fly across the trees a little bit. Got 100% coverage. You can feel a bit of floatiness. I think that's from the wind. That's 3.8 already, so we need to come down a little bit, not kill the battery. It is weird not having all the extras that DJI bring with a drone. That is really weird. So like the safe button and stuff. I have got angle. Currently in acro, you can see it on the left there, but I kind of trying to get out of using the emergency button when I'm using acro, and this is kind of got no choice with this drone, so 8.5. But angle is a little bit like pause mode. You put it in angle and it will make itself right sort of thing, so get you out of a bit of trouble. So with this being the first flight, really happy. 3.8, got 2.5 minutes in, really happy with that. Bit annoyed my ND filters haven't come yet for this part of the video, but yeah, the SBUS configuration change was a bit of a learning curve, a bit of a steep learning curve, but overall was relatively easy. If you want the board settings, I'm going to do that in a separate video, so that's allows lower latency to stop you having a few more issues when you're doing faster maneuvers and stuff. So I'm going to do a different video on that. So if you're still watching, brilliant, thanks for watching, and go and have a look at that video. I will put it in the description, and it's pretty easy. Well, I think it is. I've not put it in this yet, so this hasn't actually got it. It's just got the standard setting so far. So yeah, we'll have to see how we go with that. But as you can see, I'm the idiot next to the car.